We'll do some Nama Sankirtanam and then get started. Shri Ram Jaya Jaya Ram Om 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 Jaya Ram Om Jaya Ram Om Syavar Ramachandra ki jai. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryanta Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Vihata Nishacharacham Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Raman Nasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Hari Om. We will chant from 17th verse all the way until 23rd verse. Drishyavaritam manasam tu kim manasam tu kim margane krute naiva manasam marga arjavat vrittayastvaham vrittimashritaah vrittayo mano vidyaham manah. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvatah aipatatyaham nija vicharanam ahaminashabhajahamaham taya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat idamaham padabhikyamanvaham ahamilinake प्रलय सत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रिय प्राणधीतमा नाहमेकसत्तज्जडं ह्यसत् सत्त्वभासिका चित्त्ववेतरा सत्तया हि चेत् चित्तया ह्ययम्. After elaborating different paths of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga, Bhagwan Raman Maharshi started taking us step by step on the path of knowledge. So 17th verse onwards is pure Tattva Vichara, inquiry into who am I. The prerequisite, the requirements for this inquiry is a mind that is available and some quality time for ourselves. It is difficult, if not impossible, it is difficult to do this inquiry when we have something immediate which demands our attention. Not only quantity of time, but making sure we have quality time where this mind is not preoccupied and it can ask questions about itself. Because 17th verse started by saying, Manasam tu kim margane krute. This is a question that we often don't end up asking. We use the mind to ask questions of the world, but very rarely do we ask, what is this mind? So that is one small prerequisite of this. If you see Vedanta Shastra as a whole, there are so many topics that are described. So many points are described. Karma Siddhanta is there, Purushartha, Prarabdha, creation. Different topics are there. But it is said the culmination of all these topics is in understanding my own true nature. They by themselves are not the goal. If I prove whether Purushartha is important or Prarabdha is important, which one has an upper hand? Is it Purushartha or is it Prarabdha? That discussion is good to one level. It will help me get perspective about many vyavaharik things. But culmination of that is not only to stay there, but to move forward and inquire into my own true nature. Somebody asked our Puja Guruji that is Vedanta relevant? In today's times, is Vedanta relevant? Guruji's answer was beautiful. He said, Vedanta talks about you. You means aham. He said, first decide whether you are important to yourself. Meaning what? If I live my whole life with a mistaken identity, whatever I do through that mistaken identity will be another mistake only. The example given is of the lion cub, which got separated from its group and went and mixed up with a group of sheeps. And because it lived with the sheeps, it started thinking itself also to be a sheep. Even the sound it would make, like the bleating of the sheeps, everything it did was of the sheep only. And if some sound came, all the sheep ran away. This lion cub would also run away. Like this, it lived, long. And then one day, one lion came and roared. All the sheep ran away. Even this little lion cub, which was now, relatively grown up, even that lion ran away. So this lion said, this doesn't belong to this group here. So it went, caught hold of it, And then said, you are not a sheep, you are a lion. He didn't believe. He said, no, 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 I am a sheep only. So this lion had to catch that other lion, take it to the pond and show its face. You see my face? It is of a lion. See yours. You are also of that nature. This example is given to explain Mahavakya. Tat Tvam Asi, you are not this finite being, you are that infinite consciousness. Finitude is the nature of this ahankara. There, when I inquire, I realize myself as infinite consciousness. This is the sole purpose of having a human body. The absolute purpose. There might be several other goals we have in between. All of them should lead us to the next goal. And then final goal is to understand that this aham is not finite, it is infinite consciousness. Keeping that goal in mind, Raman Maharshi is taking us step by step. He is very systematically guiding us. In 18th verse, he said, if you have to inquire into mind, just notice what is the nature of this mind. First indicator was it's a flow of thought. One after the another, thoughts are continuously coming. And every thought has an object. Vishaya is there. If the Vishaya is the same, then I say this is a single pointed mind. Okay? Vishaya means the object of every thought. If it is the same, that means this mind is very well single pointed. It's a focused mind. And with that, other sadhanas might be there. But right now, our focus is not on those sadhanas. Our focus is just to understand what is the nature of mind. Second, he said, all these thoughts which are there, you call them as idam. Idam vritti, this thought. All these thoughts are dependent upon this ahankara, which is called as aham vritti. Only when ahankara wakes up, all these thoughts are recognized. They go together. When aham is there, idam is there. So Raman Maharshi says, you can very well boil all these idam thoughts to this aham vritti. Now he says, inquire just on that ahankara. When you inquire on that ahankara, what will you find? Okay, that is what is the later part of this verse now. 19th verse. We had chanted it last time. Aham ayam kutaha bhavati chinmataha. Inquire. Where does this aham come from? For this, I will have to take one step by step. The first step towards understanding this ahankara is to know that it is a karya. These are all technical words of Vedanta. A little bit those words we should be familiar with. First is to understand ahankara is karya. What is karya? Karya means an effect. Effect is something which rises, which perishes, and in between it modifies. Any effect. You take any effect, it will have these qualities. It will be created at some point, it will perish at some point, and while it is being perceived, it will constantly modify. We say wave is an effect. Right? Water is the cause, wave is an effect. Now you apply this definition there. Wave rises, wave perishes, and in between that wave modifies. Body is an effect. Body is born, body perishes, and while this body is there, it constantly modifies. In the same way, ahankara is also an effect. Ahankara means our name. Morning class you were thinking, don't think ahankara means somebody. So you put your name there. He says, this person whom I call as this, This ahankara is born. Simple way, if you want to take it, morning when I come out of deep sleep, it rises. And when I go back to sleep, it perishes. And during the day, it constantly modifies. Different hat it wears. It thrives on different forms. If mind is quiet, this ahankara says, I am quiet. Whatever action this body does, ahankara owns it up. Right? So let us say you are playing soccer and you kick the ball. One who has kicked the ball is the leg. But this ahankara says, I kicked the ball. You do something with the hand, right? Some other sport you play, you type or something. What is typing is the organ of action, right? Hand is typing, but there is some entity inside us which owns up the action of all sense organs and mind. This is that owner of assemblage is called as ahankara. Okay, so that is this questioning. Aham ayam kutah bhavati. Whatever first step is to determine that ahankara is an effect. Ahankara is a karya. Now inquiry is, where has it come from? Because no effect can be there without a cause. Na idam amulam bhavishyati. In Chandogya we saw, Upanishad Rishi is telling Shvetaketu, wherever you see an effect, there should be a cause. There can never be an effect without a cause. So where does this ahankara merge in deep sleep? Where does this ahankara rise from after deep sleep? This is that you inquire. When you inquire, what will happen? Ayi patati aham nija vicharanam. When you inquire in that way, substratum will be known as that Atma, and ahankara will be known as a superimposition on that Atma. Atma means aham. This notion of finitude that I am carrying with me, that will be known as false. Okay, whatever comes and goes is not me. Example we had seen of the mask. Although it seems to be part of this body, I can take it out and keep it. That itself shows I am not that thing. So this ahankara comes, ahankara goes. While it is there, it is modifying. So where is it coming from? What is that substratum in which this ahankara is appearing? There, when I inquire, then this ahankara falls. False means it is understood as mithya. But what is the prerequisite? How should I do this inquiry? Nija vicharanam. That is the most difficult part. Nija vicharanam means I have to inquire about myself. In the world, we have been trained to inquire about the outside world. Right? If I am studying physics, then physics vicharanam I am familiar with. If I am studying music, then swara vicharanam. There also vichara is needed. But nija vicharanam is not something we are familiar with. It is a law that about whatever thing you do vichara, ignorance of that thing will be removed. You do vichara about some natural phenomenon, ignorance about that will go away. It's only a matter of time. That is how all scientific discoveries come about, right? They say it rained over here today. They say that becomes topic of inquiry. Why did it rain? What was the phenomenon that caused it? So like that they will trace back and all those discoveries will come from there. Apple fell from a tree. Why did it fall? But these questions don't come to everybody. That is why few people become scientists, where others might not have gone in that direction. Same thing with Atma also. Enquiry into aham will remove ignorance of aham. But only thing, while inquiring, I should use Shastra as my support. Otherwise, you keep asking, where is this ahankara coming from? We will not get a direction to think. Right? So if you directly ask, who am I? Answer will be, I am this person only. But with Shastra support, when we think, substratum of this ahankara is understood as infinite Atma. Nija Vicharanam means that topic of inquiry is not something outside. Topic of inquiry is aham. Who am I? Many of you might have heard the story of Raman Maharshi Ji, the story that Raman Maharshi Ji used to tell. Although it's a very well heard story, we should pay attention to nuances of this story. That is of this man in the wedding, right? The stranger who comes in the wedding. And he starts giving all instructions. He says, keep that thing here, keep that thing there. And then he's as though taken charge of that whole wedding. The bride's family thinks he must be from the bridegroom's side. And the bridegroom's family thinks he must be from the bride's side. So nobody says anything. The whole wedding is over and this person is, managing the whole show. And after the wedding is done, both of them, 3 o'clock tea they're having, with chuda and that sweet they give, 3 o'clock. They sit and are having the tea. They wonder, who is this person? Bride's family say, you don't know? We thought they were from your side, or he was from your side. Bridegroom's family says, not from our side. We thought he was from your side. That person comes to know that these people are discussing about me. They're trying to inquire about me, and he disappears. So Bhagavan used to say that ahankara is like that. What are the similarities now? Pay attention to this part. Ahankara cannot take sustained inquiry. It's a good news for us. Although initially it might look difficult to inquire into this aham, but if we develop this habit, develop this practice of questioning our finitude, it is not going to take much time, because this ahankara cannot stand inquiry. Seyam bhrantir niralambha tamo yadvad divakaram vicharam na sahateya. Ishkarma Siddhi, there is one shloka that this ahankara, it cannot stand inquiry. Vicharam na sahate. The moment you start inquiry, it will start dissolving. Another thing is, it should be sustained inquiry. You cannot just ask a question and start drinking tea again. Then that person will not go away. Right? So you have to have both the parties should have a very systematic inquiry about who is this person? Who is this ahankara? Now the last similarity with that story is, just like that person did not belong to the bride's side, nor did he belong to the bridegroom's side. Ahankara doesn't belong to Atma category, nor does it belong to Anatma category. Why is that? Because Atma is infinite. Atma is infinite, it is nirvikara, non-changing. It is not born, it does not perish. Now, just now we saw ahankara has all opposite qualities. It is rising, it perishes, and it is modifying. So you cannot put it in Atma category directly. Now, can you put it in Anatma category? I say no, because Anatma is inert. So literally speaking, the confusion comes because this ahankara is not inert like an object. Right? It expresses sentiency, nor is it unchanging, infinite like Atma. It is only thriving because of lack of inquiry. Okay, that is the main part of this teaching. The story is also very beautiful. You can find more similarities and then discuss also whether it makes sense. Whatever similarities you find, it should go back to the main point. Example is not important, really speaking. Siddhanta should become clear, right? To help that is this example. You draw similarities and parallels. Okay, Ayi patati aham nija vicharanam. Now the student asks probably to Bhagwan Raman Maharshi ji that how does this ahankara fall? What exactly happens when this ahankara falls? In what way? What do we mean when we say ahankara falls? In Saddarshanam, Bhagwan Raman Maharshi ji says, Paribhugna Shirsha. Means, just you have that during Ravan Dahan, you light the fire and this Ravana's effigy is standing, right? So just like after it has significantly caught fire, this Ravana just falls like this, right? And sound comes. He says, when you inquire into ahankara, like that, this ahankara falls. But you don't literally have to take it that way. Now you see Bhagwan, how he is saying, what happens when ahankara falls. 20th verse. Ahaminashabhajahamaham taya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat. Ahaminashabhajahamaham taya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat. Ahaminashabhaji. Ahami means this aham or this ahankara, which becomes patra. Bhaji means it becomes fit for nasha. Bhaji is that. In Marathi, bhaji means vegetable, but not that bhaji. Ahami nasha bhaji. This aham which becomes fit for getting destroyed. We'll come to that word. What does nasha mean? Aham aham taya spurati. This same aham which got destroyed, that same aham will now shine forth as aham aham, but without the notion of finitude. Then where does it shine forth? Hrut. It shines forth in our own heart as the witness of thought. Hrut means don't take physical heart. Hrut means that which is witness of thought. That aham shines forth as infinite. Swayam spurati. On its own it shines forth. What is its nature? Paramapurna sat. It is a supreme and it is without any conditionings. It is Sat Swarupa. It is existence by itself. Oh, same existence from Chandogya 6th chapter? Yes, same one. There are many existences in different texts that we study. Same Sat that was there in the beginning of creation, that is recognized as Aham. So this point, the first line we should reflect upon more. When we say ahankara falls, ahankara is destroyed, what do we mean by it? What it means is, what I call as aham is an erroneous aham that I have understood. True meaning of aham is aparichinna, unconditioned Atman. But identifying with some conditioning, I superimpose the limitations of those conditionings on aham. That combined entity is what we call as ahankara. You take any statement for that matter. I am body. Right? I am body. So this I am part came from Atma. but erroneously identified with body came this in-between entity called as ahankara. So all limitations of the body come to me. I am body. It says I am portion came from where? I am portion came from Atma, but conditioning portion erroneously mixed up in this I. It starts saying I am this body. Although while using the phrase, we say this is my body. I don't say this is I body. Correct? But in spite of saying this is my body, he says I am tall, I am short. He says how come it became I? Right? It should have been my body is tall, my body is short. Those who are traditional Mahatmas, they're very insistent upon these subtleties. Like I was listening to one pravachan, there was one bhandara going on in one place in North India. All the Mahatmas were being introduced, and the introduction was, he is such and such, Swamiji from here. Inka sharir dakshin se. Their way of introducing is, this physical body is from southern India. They will not say, this is a Swami from southern India. It is just a way of being very clear about our identity. Whatever is Sharira Dharma, keep it there. Don't take it upon yourself. Mind also the same way. What do we say? This is my mind. But if mind has become quiet, what is the statement I make? It says, I am quiet. If mind is racing, the statement is called, I am agitated. I am having thoughts which are racing. So this mix-up of I and conditioning, that is called as ahankara. That finite identity which I take upon myself. Imagine all our vyavahara, all transactions from morning till evening go on only with this mixed up identity. Not only in this birth, from time immemorial, this mix-up has been going on. Purpose of Vedanta is to remove this sense of finitude. Vedanta has come only for that purpose, to say that as this aham, as this I am not having any association with any conditionings. Today morning we saw Anya deva tad viditat atho aviditat adhi. Let go of all gross and subtle conditionings. Let go of causal, Maya also. What remains, that is who I am. So when we say ahami nasha bhaji, what nasha happened? Not of aham. Nasha happened of that conditioning. Whatever remained, that was recognized as this aham. Infinite aham, which is unconditioned. The best example for this is of a pot. Okay. Space by itself is infinite. And in that space, you bring a pot. Now that space which is inside gets the name of what? He said gets the name pot space. And in that pot space, you can do several things. You can fill water also, you can fill milk also, you can fill something else. So transaction can happen in that pot space. Now transactions cannot happen in infinite space. Pot space, you can do those transactions. But if the pot space starts thinking, I am finite, meaning what? If the pot is smaller, then I become smaller. Pot is bigger, I become bigger. If pot is made up of gold, then I become more valuable. Who is saying this? Pot space. And if pot is made of clay, then my value goes down. That is called as bondage. Pot space, understanding that I have nothing to do with this pot. Pot space, understanding that I am ever infinite. This pot doesn't bring any modification in me. That is called as moksha of that pot space. Now, what is the pot over here? This physical body is the pot, first pot. Another one is this mind, all conditioning, sense organs. Superimposing attributes of conditioning upon the substratum. Upon Atman, superimposing conditionings, limitations of conditionings. Just like on that pot space, on that space itself, limitations of the pot are superimposed. So like it was said, ahami nasha bhaji. You say if you destroy that pot, what have we actually destroyed? We have destroyed the limitations. We don't have to destroy or do anything to that space. Space is already infinite. It is just thinking itself to be finite. Just that conditioning has to be taken away. That pot space realizes I am not limited, I am not finite, I am infinite. So here also, what is removed is finitude. Aham need not be changed. Like I am this body. What I have to remove is erroneous superimposition of finitude upon I. Then knowingly, I can use that statement. Knowing that I am pure consciousness, I can still say I am this body. In Panchadashi, Vidyaranya Swamiji says, this is how Jnani lives. They have two aham. One aham is absolute aham, and second aham is one that they knowingly use for transactions. So suddenly we should not, start using absolute aham in vyavahara. They will not do anything to you. They will come here and ask me, what are you teaching? Right? So vyavaharik aham will go on as it is. But how do I define myself in my eyes? That is a whole part of Vedanta. We don't have to say it to anybody. We don't have to declare to the whole world. All we have to do is save ourselves from sorrow coming from this finitude. Somebody will appreciate this teaching only when they see limitations in living a life of finitude. Right? If I take the finitude role of being a doer of action, at some point, this will bring some kind of abhimana. That I have done this so well. Says that abhimana will give a lot of sorrow. Jaya Vijaya had abhimana of position. Daksha Prajapati had abhimana of position. So Bhagavan says, unless we realize the limitation of that abhimana, we will not come to inquire into. Nija Vicharanam will not happen. You take finitude as enjoyer. All these are different names of ahankara. Karta, bhokta. Moment I become bhokta, I say I will get joy by experiencing different things. And we realize things are so uncertain. Same thing which gave me joy before, today it is not giving. Same place where we had gone, had such a nice vacation. Again you go to that place, not necessary that same joy will come. You say tea gives ananda. Not necessary every time you make the tea, it will be that way. Meaning our life will be like a pumpkin. Vivek Chudamani example is given. This pumpkin goes up and down. In olden days, kamandalu used to be made from pumpkin. And some Rishi Muni who would be sitting on the bank, invariably their kamandalu would go away in the water. They would be in meditation probably. Kamandalu would be washed away. And you see that kamandalu from top, right? It is like going up and down in that water. So our life is like that if we sit in ahankara. Sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is sad. Somebody who does not want this kind of life, that person is mumukshu. If somebody is happy, then going to the next step becomes little difficult. So thinking about limitations of this ahankara is also very helpful. What to talk about mind? It is the height of uncertainty. Sometimes it is one way, another time it is different way. So sadhaka says, I will do all my sadhana to take care of these conditionings, but I will not sit in them thinking them to be me. So aham should be very well clearly known. Goswamiji writes this in a very simple way. He says, if we take ourselves to be this ahankara, this finite being, what is the natural result of that? He says, Main aru mora torate maya. What is maya? Somebody asked Goswamiji. He says, maya is thinking ourselves to be ahankara. And moment you think about yourself as this finite being, suddenly things also become mine. Main aru mora. I am this person, and these are the things which belong to me. What about other people? Torate. These things are yours. This is not mine. And you are a person different from me. Goswamiji says this whole thing is called as Maya. So what should Vedanta do at the end of the day? It should remove this notion of differences between all conditionings. Conditioning of body means one person different from another person. Conditioning of this body and other beings which are there, plants, animals, trees. And conditioning of inert and this jiva also. So whatever differences I see in conditionings, I say all those things should be removed. This we see even in our everyday life, that whenever we see extension of ourselves in something or some person, we become more accepting of that person. If this bhava comes, main aru mora torate, even small thing, that other person does is not very well accepted by us. I had gone for a satsang a couple of months ago over here, outside our ashram. That was the first time many people were meeting, after a year and a half lockdown. That was a time when things had just opened up. Everybody masked up. You can't see who is who. Satsang was over and very elderly people, all of them. After that, they just came to meet. Everybody was nice, but only thing I found was it is difficult to answer when 4 people are talking at the same time. 4 different questions, everybody asking the different question at the same time. So I just requested, this person is speaking something. I will talk to you after this person. So this gentleman who was there, elderly person with all dhoti and everything was there, topi. He felt bad. He said, I interrupted him. He was saying something. I said, I will not talk to you now. I will talk to you later. And he was looking at that other person to whom I was talking. Then I told him that, now you can start. But he didn't want to say anything. He said, I have nothing to say. He was telling something about Gurudev's story or something that he had met Gurudev and so on. But I, just exchanged a few pleasantries and I was on my way. And then I turned back and look, Both of them are, very nicely talking and, hugging each other and talking. I came and asked, how do you know each other? He says, he's my childhood friend. That same person whom previously he thought, why is he talking to him? He should be talking to me. With that mask, he could not recognize who this person was. When that mask was taken off, said, oh, this is my friend. The point is, wherever I see extension of my aham, there I'm able to live a life with less ups and downs. Very accepting. This is a very simple example without even going to Brahma Vidya. But Jnani is the one who can see his aham in everything. Right? Because this creation has come from aham. Creation has come from that consciousness. Who will be different for that Jnani? Right? If creation, including all jivas, everything are an appearance in I, in this aham, to whom will he consider as somebody different from him? He says, if this happens, then there is nirankusha trupti, unrestrained joy, unrestrained happiness. Okay. So this is that portion. Spurati hrut swayam parama purna sat. That sat vastu, which is ever complete, which is devoid of all finitude. That is the main point here. What is removed is finitude. Whatever remains, he says, that is who I am. Now the student asks, this aham that you pointed out, ahankara, it came and it went. In deep sleep it went, in waking and dream it came back. But now after I have done this inquiry, removed finitude and everything, this other aham which was there, will that also go away? For how long will this aham keep, shining in my heart? To answer that is the 21st verse. Idamaham pada bhikkyamanvaham ahamilina ke pyalaya sattaya. Idamaham pada bhikkyamanvaham ahamilina ke pyalaya sattaya. Idam aham pada abhikyam. This aham which we just indicated by this aham pada. Idam means this, aham pada abhikyam. This which was indicated by aham. He said there were two aham that you indicated, right? One gets nasha and other rises, or that other starts shining. There were two ahams that you indicated. Which one are you referring to? This is the second one. Anu aham means that the second one, which came after the first one. Atma. That aham. Ahami lina ke api alaya sattaya. Once the first aham is understood as mithya, this second aham which is there, that is not something which will come and go, that will be always there. First aham, laya happened in deep sleep and so on. This second aham is alaya. Alaya means it is eternal. No matter where you go, this aham will be just like that. You go to the moon, you go to Mars, it says aham will still be aham taya parama purna sat. There this aham will be ever shining. Now we should not understand in this way that ahankara got destroyed and this new aham rose and it is starting to shine now. You say, no, it was ever shining. This aham was misunderstood as this ahankara. Okay, so whatever happens through knowledge, it is not created. It is already there. So aham as infinite, aham as self-effulgent, I don't have to create. Even when I thought this ahankara, even when I thought myself to be this ahankara, at that time also, this aham only was shining. But because I mixed up this aham with finitude, I did not recognize my infinite nature. Okay, so knowing this aham, destroying this aham, is in what way? Is by knowing that this aham was ever infinite. I should not say that this snake which is there, the illusory snake which is appearing, I did something and it has gone away now. And now onwards, this rope is shining forth. This is no. The rope was already there. I mistook that rope to be this snake. So Atma and Ahankara also, in the same way, we have to understand. And we should also appreciate greatness of knowledge. Like that pot space and infinite space example we saw, right? Now somebody should not say that every time I want to understand that pot space is infinite, I have to break one pot. No, that person also is not understood what we are trying to say. This is only when the pot is destroyed, I will get this conviction that pot space is infinite space. This is no, only knowledge is sufficient. Just understand what is happening here. So even for ahankara, we should not insist on non-perception of this body, non-perception of this mind. It says only when I go into samadhi, only when I go into deep sleep, then I am unconditioned. One should not have this idea. Even when conditionings are appearing, they should be understood as an only appearance, unaffected or not affecting this true I. Okay. If you all have questions, you can ask. If not, I will take one more verse. Okay, there are some questions. More we will see next time then. Now is another important verse. Raman Maharshi is going to say how to conduct this inquiry. Because previously he did not give a lot of elaboration. He did not say, how should you inquire into aham? This was, we took some other ideas from other places, but now he is going to give a very precise method. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Vedanta becomes very alive, when you discuss about aham. We're talking about us, right? All right. If there are... When we say ahankara modifies, are we relating that to the sense of ownership? In some cases, we have strong ownership of something and sometimes weak ownership. Is that the modification of ahankara being noted? You can note it in several ways. Strong ownership, weak ownership, that is one kind of noticing. In Advaita Makaranda, there are three indicators which are pointed out. Parinama Paricheda Paritapaihi Upaplavat. What is ahankara? It is afflicted by, or it is engulfed by these three limitations. Parinama means it modifies. Modifies, meaning whatever is happening to the limitation, right? The conditioning, ahankara says it is happening to me. So that modification I see. Paricheda, it has a sense of finitude. Finitude, we don't have to make it too technical. Whenever we are in a group of people, right, some social setting or somewhere, there is a sense that comes that I am this tiny being in all this, amidst everything. one example is, even if that person is the most powerful person, let us say the president, prime minister, somebody is there. In their own country, they will be, like the supreme most ahankara, if you want to say it. Means whenever they come, everybody will get up, everybody will appreciate everything. But when that same leader goes into some other summit, right, where all other leaders are there, this is parichinna. Because everybody is a leader there. Nobody is greater or smaller in that sense. So wherever I feel this notion of being different from others, being limited, right? One is with respect to others, but even with my own conditionings, I feel those limitations. With mind, I see the limitation of memory. With mind, I see the limitation of ability to think about several things. With body, we see the limitation of strength, right? And we say that statement also. That's, what I was 10 years before, now I am not. When that modification has happened, right? But only because it is very small, it is not distinctly noticed. That is ahankara. That is not who I am. With some conditioning, I am defining it for myself. Okay, I hope that gives a perspective. Which identification does a person with sattvic ahankara hold on to every moment of their prarabdha? For a sattvic person, or even for a jnani, in vyavahara, the best ahankara to hold on to is of a bhakta. Right? This is a prayer that Sutikshnaji does to Bhagavan. He says, Bhagavan, this abhimana that I am your devotee, may that never go away. Asa abhimana jai nahi bhore, main sevaka raghupati pati more. Bhagavan, you are my master, I am your dasa. Oh, did this knowledge take away your other Vedantic knowledge? He says, no, it has protected my other knowledge. This identity of being a devotee, it will make sure that this new knowledge which I have gained of my infinitude, that is not swept away. Devotion has never bothered anybody. Huh? If at all something has bothered anybody, it is Vishaya only. So if we can hold on to that abhimana is much better. Goswamiji gives example of one lamp. Our knowledge sometimes, he says, is like the flame of that lamp. With so much effort, you gather all the ingredients. You get the wick, you put the oil, you bring the, the lamp holder, everything you bring, and finally you light it. And then we take that lamp and keep it outside in the wind. And he says the wind is of Vishaya. Right? So he says protect that with lot of devotion. Protect that flame. That will not affect this knowledge. What will not affect? Taking myself to be devotee of Bhagavan. Okay. If knowledge is permanent, then why do I keep forgetting my true identity? When we say knowledge, we should pay attention to what that word is referring to. Knowledge, if it means a thought, you see that thought is not permanent. Just like any other thought, this thought of I am Brahma, it will not remain all the time. No matter how hard you try, no matter who that person is. Okay, this thought has come, it will go away. But when we say knowledge is permanent, what we mean is prama that is created by this thought. Knowledge in the sense that I am not this ahankara, I am that absolute Brahman. This knowledge is permanent. Why? Because it has been created through pramana. And if some knowledge has been understood through pramana, forgetfulness is not the problem. Example we had seen was, what is our house address? Right? We don't constantly keep repeating that in our mind. I live on this street, this number and so on. If somebody asks, then you tell. So it is the same thing about aham brahmasmi. It is not something which I have to constantly repeat in that way. But if I take myself to be jiva, or identify myself to be a finite, or identify myself with some finite conditioning, there I have to correct myself. Now I understand the spirit of this question. Even this becomes difficult for us. Even to recollect or understand this, bring that knowledge in our mind that I am not this finite being, I am Brahma, it becomes difficult. That is why Bhagavan says, I have addressed this topic in a portion of Bhagavad Gita called as Sthita Prajna Lakshana. Same question it is. Arjuna is also asking, as though, how does this person who has Sthita Prajna, how was he able to abide in this knowledge? While he is doing his vyavahara, what does he keep in mind? How does he interact? How is he when he is by himself? So all the indicators Bhagwan gives in Sthita Prajna Lakshana, and there the main emphasis is living an alert life. Sanyama, he says that is the main sadhana over there. Our mind, sometimes there are so many other thoughts, and aham brahmasmi is like a tiny voice trying to raise its hand. Aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. But other thoughts are very powerful. Ravana is there, Kumbhakarna is there, Meghanada is there. And Bhagwan Rama is standing on the, on the ground. But then I have to build that chariot, inner chariot, bringing all those virtues, a lot of other sadhanas which I have to do. Those sadhanas will help me over here. Help me over where? In getting more established, getting more and more established in this knowledge. In that way we can look at it. Can you please explain the difference between substratum and cause? Brahman enlivens ahankara, but Maya is the cause for it. So should the inquiry be towards Brahman or Maya? When we say cause, it could be an immediate cause also. Like how we saw in Chandogya Upanishad. When we ask ourselves the question, what is the cause of this body? We say food is the cause of this body. But where did food come from? You say, I was feeling hungry. Where did hunger come from? So go into the subtler causes and keep asking this question until you reach absolute cause. That is how this inquiry was, right? In Chandogya, that hunger has come because water has led that food away. Where did water come from? How was water able to lead that food away? Because fire cooked it. Where did fire come from? So 5 elements you go to. From that element, you go to Maya. The question is, where is Maya appearing? We cannot inquire into cause of Maya. That is the tricky part. Okay. Between Maya and Brahma, we cannot actually establish karya karana. Maya is something which is inserted to help us explain the whole phenomenon. Maya is not a physical thing that you inquire and say, this is, this is why Maya also came. That is not our way of inquiring. So when you inquire into substratum of Maya, you will find it is Brahmashraya Maya Asti. Tattva Bodha, we saw that, right? Maya is not independent. It is ashrita on Brahma. Okay. In Tamil, Alayam means temple. Interestingly, Alaya kind of represents the supreme in the temple. Just a thought. Good. Alaya means a home actually. Whatever you add with it, it becomes home of that. Means if you say Deva Alaya, it becomes a temple. You say Pustaka Alaya, it becomes a library. So home of that thing. Alaya means that. Bhagwan Shankaracharya said, Alaya of Karuna. Alayam Karunalayam. Means he is the home of compassion. Embodiment of compassion. In that way it is used. What we should notice here, it is not Alaya. You notice the word carefully. It is Alaya. Alaya Sattaya. Laya means that which perishes, that which gets dissolved. And Atma is Alaya. It never gets perished. It never perishes. It doesn't go away. Right. So about Aham, you will not find much elaboration in other places. Although some texts there are, Vivek Chudamani, Saddarshanam. There was one thought over here that Nirvana Shatakam, when we read, there are so many pointers which are there, but elaboration is not there. That is very true. You will find elaboration in these texts. Right? And from 17th verse until 23rd verse. If you want, you can write a short summary about who am I. Right? Tvam Pada Vichara, very precise Tvam Pada Vichara is done from 17th to 23rd verse. Can you please clarify that Vyavaharik Aham Bhava is a thought? Should not all thoughts be categorized as Anatma, in the sense that it exists as reflected consciousness by borrowing from consciousness? Similarly, absolute Aham is pure consciousness. Vyavaharik Aham Bhava, what we mean there is that whatever transactions are happening, it will never be with absolute Aham. In Drigdrisha Viveka also we saw, how does this Atman express as this creation? It is one by becoming all the conditionings. Right? Atma alone has become all these conditionings. But then there is reflected consciousness which expresses in Buddhi, which I call as this Ahankara. So in that way, Vyavaharik Aham was described. This Vyavaharik Aham only goes through different janmas, not absolute Aham. Right? That verse also was there in Drigdrisha Viveka. It has to be classified under Anatma only. But the whole point is, it is difficult to do that. To say that this phone is Anatma, this book is Anatma, is very easy. Why? Because it is Jadam, it is inert. But to say this Ahankara is Anatma becomes very tricky. To say that Vyavaharik Aham is Anatma becomes tricky. It shows the same qualities as Atma. It is also called as Aham. Right? Atma also I call as Aham, or I should call as Aham. And Ahankara I erroneously keep calling as Aham. So part of sadhana is to make this ahankara as idam. It is drishya, just like I'm seeing this phone and objects outside. I see modifications in this ahankara, so it is not who I am. In that way, we should inquire. Hari Om, everyone. See you all tomorrow for Bhagavad Gita class and also next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah. Hari Om.